Everybody, welcome to the Artisan School, where we do mentoring, we talk about Pianocraft, and we crawl underneath pianos because that's the safest place to be, right? In today's training, we're going to be talking about pedal regulation, specifically grand piano pedal regulation. Some of the things that I go into and think about. We also have a couple coaches here, Jacob, we have Cobra in here, so we can kind of bounce ideas off and just kind of see what this is all about. Now, before you ever go underneath the piano like I am doing, make sure that it's stable. Please, just kind of just give it a little jostle. Make sure that the legs are all screwed in. Make sure that you're going to live through this service. So that's like my first pointer. It's just make sure that things are stable and that things are just stable so you're not going to get hurt. The next thing that I like to do is just a quick test of the pedal. So these angles are kind of cool and kind of crazy. Can you guys see this okay? Sweet. So I like to first off just see how much play is in each of the pedals. Now, can anybody point out something that's really off with this whole lyre?
It's shifting back and forth. It's not stable.
Do you not have the braces on it?
Boom. You're right. You're right, Michael. It's shifting back and forth. And you're right, Victor. It's because it doesn't have the braces. It was recently moved, and that just doesn't have the braces connected to it. So evaluate all of that stuff. Make sure that the braces are nice and tight and everything's secure, because sometimes what happens is you'll be like, well, there's a lot of this pedal sloppiness. And sure enough, once you just tighten everything up, everything goes away and it's all good and dialed in. That's the case a lot of times when we're working with pianos that have recently been moved. I'm going to do this. Bear with me. I told Stacy, I said, I think I'm going to go underneath the piano. We're going to do this. And we're doing it. So we've made sure that the piano is secure. It's not going to fall down on us. Let's, in theory, pretend that we've secured the pedal system, and we still have all this extra lost motion. Now, I know that there's a measurement out there. I think that people say, well, you're supposed to have an 1/8 inch or a 32nd or 3 millimeters. Jacob, hit me, or Michael, hit me with that number. What is it?
16th.
Is that really?
That's what it says in the PTA.
Oh.
For grands. Uprights is an 8.
Really? Did I say it?
Yes, you did.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure it was you.
All right, so I'm going back in time to 5-6 years ago, and yes, roughly a 16th of an inch. That's what we want. So that adjustment is really done up here. Now, sometimes you're going to have this system, which is awesome. When you are able to adjust these manually, you can see that there's a top screw or nut and then a bottom locking washer and locking nut. And you're able to just simply move this up and down. And usually I'll have a couple of adjustable wrenches to do that. Can everybody see that okay? See what I'm talking about? How there's...
Yeah, it's showing good. Yeah.
Good. So these are able to be adjusted up and down. Now, this is not always the case. Let's just talk about historic Steinways. Historic Steinways just have the solid steel rod going up and then boom, hitting. Usually it has some kind of an end point that's not just super rough, but usually these aren't adjusted in a lot of these older pianos. And what you have to do is add punchings or add leather. Now, I don't know about you, Jacob. I don't know about you, Coburn. What's your thoughts on leather versus felt up at these pressure points? And what I'm talking about is this cushion right here.
I think depending on the quality of leather,
yeah,
it's probably the longest lasting.
Yeah.
But I also I have put thick pieces of felt in place of leather because it's weathered and I don't have anything else.
Yeah.
So I don't know the longevity of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest.
I'm with you. I've done the Bellyman felt, the thicker stuff, even key end felt. Cobra, is that what you've done in the past as well?
Yeah, if I didn't have leather or if I didn't have a suitable adhesive for the leather, then I would use felt, a thick felt.
Yeah.
I use a temperament strip.
You use a temperament strip?
Yeah, I got one that I just use for stuff like that.
Yeah. Fun fact, if you're looking for like this nice leather, go to like a boot or like a shoe shop, and they usually have just like a bunch of spares, and that's where you get that nice, almost like saddle leather. That's
I've
really
literally done that. I
Yeah.
totally agree. Do that.
I'm gonna rest my head a little bit, guys. So I'm gonna do this little number. So
Oh, yeah, I always do that. Customers always ask if I'm okay. You got to lay down for a minute. You okay? You want some water?
you want some water? Can I help you? So we're adjusting these, and we're making it so that, like 6 years ago, David says, you want a 1/16 of an inch. And so that's what we want. We want just a little bit of play. And what I like to do is I like to lubricate right up right here. And I personally like to use that that Super Lube grease, a little bit right there and a little bit right here below. Just a little bit of lubrication right there, just to keep everything smooth. This is a point right here where can be a lot of squeaking, because you have these little rubber housing pieces that they just can get prone to squeaking over time. What are your thoughts? Has anybody had that?
I've tried lubricating the top at one point, and it just kept squeaking them. And so I thought, well, it's time to replace the leather, and replaced it, and the squeaking disappeared. So lubrication was no longer an option.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point, because sometimes, we'll go through and we'll lubricate everything, but everything is so crusty or broken down, aged, and it'll start to squeak, and you can't really do anything about it. Jacob, over there in Utah, what's the solution? What kind of lubrication are you guys using on the pedals and stuff like that for this purpose?
I've been trying to convince people to use the same that you're saying. I like the grease because it stays where you apply it. It doesn't go anywhere else.
Yes.
And it's specifically made, it's a synthetic lubricant, so it's actually made to prolong the life of the rubber.
Yes.
So it's actually really, it's the best choice for at least the metal to rubber lubrication. That's the best choice. But also, just I end up using it on most Trapwork applications. So
So after I've adjusted all of these pedals, or I've added felt so that there's just a little bit of play, that 1/16 of an inch, I'll kind of inspect everything else, just making sure that, okay, are all the pedals working, and are there any noises, any sounds? Sometimes you're going to come across and get to this point where, yes, the pedals are regulated, but man, there is a weird creak or weird sound. And then we're now at the point where we need to go deeper. So this is kind of the fairly standard Trapwork kind of mechanism. As you can see, you got your damper sustain pedal right up there. You guys can see that. And then you have your, in this case, it's a bass lift on this piano, but that middle pedal, a lot of times it could be a sostenuto. And then on the far left, we have this shift pedal, the unicorda pedal. And as you can see, there's a lot of extra space there. But what I would do is simply pull one of these down at a time. Now, especially earlier in my career, I pulled all 3 of them down once, and I got them mixed up. I swear it took me 2 hours to put them back in the right orientation, because I kept on thinking, this is where this one goes, and the angle should be right, and it wasn't. So I recommend, as you're starting out in your careers, maybe do one at a time. And what you do is you simply remove it. And on the underneath side, there's usually a leaf spring here and there. And that, especially with the older grinds, that leaf spring, where it connects to the wooden part, there's usually a piece of leather, and that leather can deteriorate and cause squeaking and cause issues. And that may need to either be removed and replaced, or just re-lubricated. Has anybody here done that before?
I'll take flits to polish the metal leaf spring, and then use steel wool or a Scotch-Brite, the blue scratch-free Scotch-Brite to do a final polish on the metal, and then like a McLube on the metal itself.
Wow, Coburn for the win. That's really good.
Also, when you're taking off pieces, if you have multiple pieces that you're taking off in the Trapwork, just label it. Like, just take a second with a pencil and put whatever labeling system you want. 1, 2, 3, ABC, whatever. But
yeah.
Just take a second, and it will help you save 2 hours.
Because Jacob's never had any issues like that.
Yeah, you've never had that problem, right?
Definitely never, ever had.
I've been liking these chalk markers.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
You
are good.
just shake it up and then apply it carefully, and then it dries, and then you can just wipe it off like chalk.
Yes. Oh, and those are just available at any craft stores, right?
I believe so. I think it's just Amazon. This one's called, the company is called Chocola.
Oh, I like that. Another, just so you guys know, another place that friction lives and breathes and grows, it seems to be, is right here as this pin protrudes all the way through, right where inside there with the cushions, with the punchings. A lot of times those could use lubrication. I've done this before where I just literally squirt some of the Protect just lube in there, and it has gotten rid of it a lot of the time. I don't know how long of a term fix that is. I don't know if anybody can speak to that, but it has seemed to help in the immediacy, but I don't know how long term it is.
Okay, so I actually have experimented with that a little bit, and in the long term,
yeah,
I end up liking, especially with pedal pins, cleaning it, like Coburn says, like with flits or whatever, getting it to a nice polish, and then putting that Pro Lube Protect grease on there, and then shoving it back in, and that always works for me.
That always works. Okay, that's good to know. So as you can see here,
so you're thinking of the Teflon spray is what you're thinking of, Jacob?
No, it's a grease, so it comes in a little tub.
Oh, okay, I'm with you. Yeah.
And usually I just use a brush, like a welder's application brush, and you just brush it on there. So yeah.
No, I do what David does. It seems to hold pretty good or last a while.
Yeah.
It comes back a little bit. I'll just spray it next time I'm there, and it's okay. But I would, if I had more time, I would definitely do what Jacob's saying.
Yeah. Yeah. So just so people know that sometimes these springs can break. I've had customers say, especially with the sustain, when there's a spring like this, and a lot of times the spring will actually live up above in between the tray. You know, it'll be a spring that kind of makes it so that the damper tray kind of is pushed down. But sometimes you'll have it right here at the bottom. And I've had customers say, I want more pressure. And so I will elongate the springs. Other times I will squinch them or even cut them if they want less spring. So those are some of the things that you can do as technicians to kind of customize it and customize that experience for your customers. These points right here and right here on either side, I a lot of times will just go ahead and just wipe on a little bit of that super lube along with right here again where all these parts are connecting. And then
I've had that spring fall out during a move. Somebody else moved it, and they called me because they're like, the right pedal's not working anymore. And then I always ask, like, did it get moved? And they're like, yes. And I think it fell out during the move. So I would check that. You know, the right spring, it probably was moved recently.
Yeah,
I've seen that.
Another thing to keep in mind, this is dumb, this is stupid, and it shouldn't happen, but it has, is when you're pulling these out, a lot of times there's a dowel like it was right here. And I've done this before where I didn't really think about it, and it goes boom, and it barely like misses my eye. So again, it's not super sharp, but boy, if you got that in the eye, it's not very fun. So when you pull this apart, make sure that you're aware that there's a lot of times this little dowel that might fall down as well. This is another place where I'll go ahead and lubricate front and back before putting it back into its slot. Questions about any of this as I put that back without dropping it?
As another option for regulating that loss motion, if you don't want to add felt to that point from the pedal rod, you can add punchings to that pitman that he just showed you.
Yeah, that's true.
As long as those rod, as long as there's space, right? Like if you don't have enough room, then that's not going to work. But sometimes that's all you need is just a large punching right there. So.
And other times is I put punchings down below too. Some pianos that have ability to do that. So I'll put punchings down there too, like what Jacob said. So again, you're just gonna have to slowly kind of pull each one of these apart. Michael, you have a grand, and I think Justin, you just recently got a grand piano as well. So this would be worth doing, is reconditioning all the felt and all the leather, lubricating everything, and just get a feel for how these all work together, if you haven't already.
Yeah, I had refurbished the lyre, but I have more work to do on the Trapwork. Specifically, the sostenuto pedal is not working correctly on. And also having issues with, everything shifting on the soft pedal properly. So I've got more work to dig in on the Trapwork side of it.
Yeah, that unicorda, or that shift pedal, should only move, what is it? What did I say? What did I say back 6 years ago?
16th.
16th. Well, apparently I loved that term, just the 16th of an inch. Just for everything. So it should only move that little bit, but it needs to move enough to kind of miss that string.
Yeah, my problem with that one is that, and I think it's a friction issue on the key bed, because it will shift over, but it won't shift back. So either there's an issue with the spring, or there's too much friction and needs to be, sanded / lubricated with some Teflon powder or something.
Another thing that it could be, and I've had this happen before, is that the cheek blocks are, when they're bolted down, are holding it too tightly.
Well, this is actually with the cheek blocks out.
Oh.
Yeah, it's that, or loosely in. I don't have them bolted in. I just have them sitting there, and it has that problem. So.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Cleaning. Have you done bedding yet?
I did a cleaning of the key bed underneath and doing some McLube there, but I hadn't done anything on the actual key bed itself. So I think I need to do a really fine sanding and then some Teflon powder, I think, is what I need to do next, and see how that goes.
Yeah. Just work your way around trying to isolate the problem. Where's the most friction? Is it the pivot in the Trapwork? Is it happening without that? Can you move it over with just your hand? Try to
I can shift.
problem.
I can shift it with my hand. It's just it's sticking somewhere where it's not pushing back. So, yeah, like you said, just working through it, trying to isolate it.
Stacy, as you well know, and Stacy and I have talked about this, when people say, "Oh, I'm having pedal issues or having damper issues," Stacy just says, "Okay, we'll do it in 5 minutes," right, Stacy?
Yeah, I'm like, easy fix. Only $5. Just kidding. No, it could be, you have to give them, if they're talking to you on the phone, you have to be like, it could be this, it could be we've had some of these pedal issues, like minimum service call, right? To come out. They could turn into like a $700 thing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you do not know. I just don't know what I'm getting into when they describe it. You just don't know. So always make sure you give a good expectation of what the range could be.
Yes.
Yeah. I talked to somebody, although they never called me back. I'm not too sure why, but they had said that, they had their piano moved. It was a grand, the lyre was off, and they wanted to have it put back on. And it's like, well, that could be really simple, or it could be really complex, And so I said, I'd really need to look at it to give you an evaluation of it. And they never called me back. So
we literally are doing one right now. Same thing. Yep. Right now.
It's once you have an idea of really all the factors that it could be, it's kind of what Jacob said. It's just going through the motions. It's like, okay, are we here in the trap work that we're having issues or needing work, or are we down, here in the rods themselves? Or the final factor is, are we in the piano kind of what we would call the cavity of the piano? Is that where we focus on these grants? Because it could be in either area there, or even
Steinways.
Box. What were you saying?
Steinways, like you're saying, the pedal, the spring being inside, that tends to be problematic.
So I've seen some technicians that they'll bring like blankets just so that they can lay down on. That's not a bad idea. I had to do this cleaning recently, and this customer had these dogs, but they were kind of like, they're not their normal dogs, and so they were kind of like dog sitting and just everywhere underneath the piano. And I'm like, I have to clean it. I'm doing a bunch of stuff. I'm doing all those repairs. My back, I had to throw away the shirt.
I did that. I had to throw my clothes away after it. And I think I brought up one time, I was like, I want to bring in coveralls for things like that, but I don't want to make people feel bad. But the dogs will go under there.
Well, and it's like they didn't have any idea that the dogs were doing that. I'm like, can you smell it? I can smell it. We can smell it.
Yeah. These people's dogs peed on the casters so bad they wouldn't move. So then we couldn't move the piano because we were doing something else. Disgusting.
Yeah, that's in the life of a piano.
Terrible. They were using it like a fire hydrant, the casters.
Yeah. They were all green.
Oh, yeah, that's.
It's just kind of funny because there's so many cool things about the craft and being a piano technician. There's all this glitz and glamour at times, and then there's other times where it's just like, I'm just laying down.
The total opposite.
Yeah, it'd be good to have just a little blanket somewhere.
Yeah.
If you had to just lay it out, like, those $5 Harbor Freight ones.
Get a yoga mat. Store a yoga mat.
Yeah, I have a little yoga mat that's rolled up in my back seat.
You know what? I've seen another technician, and they put the yoga mat on the piano. Is that you, Jacob? Did you do that?
Yeah, I do that.
I've seen that. I'm like, that's so baller. I love it.
It's not my idea, but I did see someone else do that, and I started doing it. It's a good idea.
Wow, that's a great idea.
Use it for laying down too. That's so brilliant.
I like that
you can
idea.
Spray it off, all the dog hair. You don't have to throw it away.
Yeah, and you can get it branded too, right? You can get your own branded yoga mats.
That's true. I didn't think of that.
Christmas gift. Oh my gosh. Yeah, hopefully this is making sense to everybody, because when we're done with this, we're going to hit like stop recording. Is there an unrecord? Stop recording. And we're going to see what's going on at the old HQ here right now and see what's going on. So a little teasing right there. Like and subscribe. Smash that button if that's what you're into.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, go for it, Robert.
What are some of the dividing lines between, all right, I'm inspecting the pedals as a standard service, and now I've got to charge for something that's going to require a fee? What are some of those things that you go, this is not just my standard service?
I'll speak for myself. So if it's just we've changed things up. So we have a service. We have three varying services. We have just a flat out, here's the bottom of the barrel. We're just going to come and tune the piano. We're not checking the pedals. We're not doing anything. It's just a tuning. You know what you're getting. That's what it is. So in that case, I'll say, hey, Mrs. Smith, these pedals, there's a lot of sloppiness. There's some stuff. I recommend we not only regulate the pedals, but maybe do this other stuff. I'm going to upgrade you to the next service. Now, that would include, Robert, would be just a regulation of the pedals. I might add some spacers, but pulling the pedals apart and doing some of the stuff that we're talking about doing, that's like a separate thing. So that's like a separate half hour or full hour service fee.
So you're giving them that option as you inform them what you find.
Yeah.
What do you tell a client when there's an issue with the piano that makes it really difficult to tune? Like yesterday I had a Yamaha where all the corded flanges were busted. So like to tune, it just wouldn't come back. So like, what do you do in that case? Because I mean, it's a pretty big expense.
Yeah. So there's several things at play. And one is, you want to get through the tuning. I mean, I don't think this sounds selfish. I mean, it's just a reality. You want to be able to get through the tuning because you booked out that time slot and you want to go ahead and get paid for a tuning, right? And because I have found that when a piano is really untunable, the customer is very not open to paying. They feel like,
I see.
you know, that happens a lot. Like, well, what do you mean? You didn't do anything. You know, I guess, well, I can leave you with this estimate and stuff like that. It's an estimate fee, but it gets kind of hairy. So I like to try to tune the piano if I can, even if it's as good as I can. Say, hey, I've this piano, because it needs all this stuff, needs some stuff. I was able to do this good of a tuning, and that's kind of where we're at with it.
Yeah, to kind of let you know, I had an example of that at a school where they had wanted a tuning, but it was got a lot of pinning issues in the hammer flanges. And so I was able to do some of those, but not all of them. And I let them know ahead of time, hey, this may take a couple hours of repinning work and resetting those and realigning some of the hammers, some of the screws on the hammer flanges. And they were okay with that. But to your point, I wouldn't have been able to tune it until I made those corrections.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that that most people are like, if it's $100, $200 for something, they're usually okay to do it on site. Once we get much more open above that, there's the I don't know if that's what is that what you've experienced? You know, Jacob, Victor, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I got to think about it, or can you send me an estimate?
Yeah.
Kind of varies. If I get the more rural I get,
exactly
the more resistance I get.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think very quickly, if you do a chromatic scale, and you can tell pretty quickly if you're going to need to do way more work than just a tuning and your normal stuff.
Yeah.
That's when you want to tell them right away. And if you need like a couple minutes to quickly figure out why, then that's fine too. But try to grab them really quickly up front, so that even if you do have to walk away, if you have to take a hit, you're not spending a bunch of time trying to figure it out and then having to lose that time. So try to do it quick.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I like what he said. Yeah.
Coburn, what have you run into there? You've had experience there.
So I'll do 2 evaluations as I'm at a piano. The first one is I'll do, like Jacob said, a chromatic scale. That way I know if I can tune it or not. And then as I'm that way I also know if it needs to have a pitch correction for me to go through it twice. That way, before the customer leaves the room, I can let them know, hey, it's really far out of tune. Like you said, it's been 20 years and we'd like to go through it twice just to make sure it's stable. Would you want to do that for this amount? And most of the time they'll say yes. And then the second evaluation is, as I'm actually tuning it, I'm feeling how it feels under my fingertips and seeing, okay, well, what regulation work is needed? Well, some of the notes are bobbling. Is that because there's not enough dip? Is that because the hammers are too far back? So I'll just kind of do 2 quick evaluations, one to see if I can tune it, and one to see what regulation is needed as I'm going through the tuning.
That's really good. That's really good. And that's a nice, it's funny because I think I actually do that too, but I don't we don't think about that. I'm guessing, Jacob, you do that too, but you never really had to think about it. I'm like, yeah, I guess I do kind of do a preliminary, then I go to that, go to the next layer.
Yeah, Robert,
I do like
kind
that
of go ahead, Victor.
No, go ahead, Michael. Go.
So, Robert, kind of back to your original question, the way that I do it is that in my services, I list that I'll do minor repairs as long as they're under 15 minutes. So I'll give them 15 minutes of repair time for quick, simple stuff. Once it gets beyond that 15 minutes, then it becomes hourly rate for repair work.
Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah, that's really good because it's all out in front, so that people.
Yeah. And it's listed so they know this is the expectations.
It's nice that you have a hard line too, because where I'm just like, yeah, if I can do it quick, and so it's kind of up to interpretation.
Yeah, because that way, if there's something that's not too bad on like easing keys or something like that, and it's in like there's 2 or 3 keys in the mid range, I'll do that. But if I have like 7 more keys on either end in the bass and the high treble, then it starts getting beyond that 15 minutes, and you're having to explain to the customer about that.
Yeah, we've always had on our website is like, any little on-site repairs that we can do at the time of the tuning. And that is very nebulous the more I think about it. So I love the fact that you're like putting a cap on it.
I'm not to that point yet. A Cobra and Jacob David repair for 15 minutes. I'm still probably taking me an hour or even that long to figure it out. But I am getting quicker.
I think we did a class.
Well, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Even with the Trapwork stuff that we're talking about, it wouldn't take very long just to put some lube on those 2 spots in the damper pedal Trapwork and call it good. And that you don't even have to slow down for that.
Yeah.
So that's there's always something you could you could find it.
Yeah, and those are those things that I think things you do that you don't tell them until the very end.
Yeah.
Like I feel like fixing the pedals is a really good one. So small.
Oh, you cut out.
I don't know if can you guys hear me?
Yeah, there we are.
Can you all hear me now? Yeah, like those small things that you could do in under 15 minutes, like to be like, oh, and I did this, and then they usually really enjoy that. So like usually if they're squeaking the pedals, I'll just fix it or something like that. Those are the kind of the things I like to do for those like small surprises.
Yeah, I think Coburn turned me on to this one, or maybe it was Alan, but tightening the bench legs. That's a
yeah, I always do that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Alan was the one with. He's like, "How long does it take to tighten the bench legs?" I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. We should probably be doing it all the time. 15 seconds."
Alan's perfect in that. He's just like, he just kind of sets it out. Like, yeah, well, I guess that's true.
Oh yeah, I went to a school. This bench was so loose. I sat out. I almost fell, and it was so bad. But then it takes like 30 seconds to tighten it, and then an hour later I got a text from the accompanist. He's like, "You fixed my bench, didn't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, it was pretty bad." He's like, "Gosh, for the last 6 months it's been annoying me like crazy."
Yeah,
so
that's why
I like doing those things.
Your adjustable wrench and or a really good pair of pliers in your bag to do that work.
Yeah, they stay out of my tool roll, and I can get them just as fast as I can get my mute, because there's always something you can tighten. But have you used a airbag for the lyre, David?
I've seen them. I've never used one.
I've been using one lately.
I've
It
got
helps a lot.
one to use. I haven't had an opportunity to use it yet, but I have a small square one that I got at Home Depot or somewhere like that for not that much.
It helps
money.
a lot.
Is that just to lift it into place so that you can tighten it?
Yes, or when you're taking it off, you can just tighten it, and then when you take out all the screws, it doesn't fall on you.
And it's like a pump-up thing, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good
They're
idea.
really good. Yeah, I think the cheapest is at Supply 88. I think you get them for like $9 or $10, but Home Depot has them for about $20.
Yeah.
Harbor Freight sells them, I know.
Yeah, you probably get it cheaper there.
Yeah. Here you go.
Yeah, there you go.
And then you just
What?
Yeah.
Yes.
Pump it up.
How?
Here, I'll pump it up and I'll give you an example
Yeah.
here in a few
We
minutes.
just hear
Well,
Michael.
well, you know what? The other day at the church, a lady got her keys locked in the car, so I had that, and I had my base cleaning tool, so it's like a wire, the wire, and we unlocked her door.
Oh, whoa!
Yeah, just using piano stuff.
Dude, Victor, that's awesome.
Oh yeah.
How much weight can that hold up?
It's like hundreds of pounds.
It's a lot. Yeah. We shoved that in the door and pumped it up, and it was enough to get the wire in there, and we unlocked the door.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it really mangled up my thing though, but at least they got home.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, real quick, I want to go back to the you're saying at least get through the tuning so they're like you've done something. Yeah, because before I would I'd be like, oh, it needs a lot of work before I'd even do the tuning. And yeah, they would be kind of turned off.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, okay, well, I guess it's not worth it. But yesterday, the owner didn't come, the nanny let me in. So I was like halfway done through the tuning, and then the lady came in, and then it was already kind of tuned. And I explained to her, and at first she was kind of like, oh, that's quite a bit, I think I just told her to be around 1,000. She was like, that's quite a bit, well, we'll think about it. And then when I was done and I played, and they saw and heard that the piano was tuned, she's like, oh my gosh, well, just send me the estimate and we're probably going to do it. So they're really excited at that point. So yeah, I think it really helps once it's tuned. Mm-hmm.
What else? Are we feeling sufficiently?
Oh, last thing, that trap work for grand. The big thing I always run into is the block of felt that's too fat, and you got to cut that.
Okay. Yes.
I see that all the time.
I see that all the time with Steinways, especially.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Concert grands. I don't know how many concerts I go to.
All right.
It's like 5 minutes before.
So what Victor's talking about, let's crawl back underneath here, is we're talking about the sustain pedal. And what happens is you'll go to play it and your foot will be like, man, I want more. I want more range and everything. And what it will be is can you guys see that moving? That's kind of hard to see. Let's do this. Yeah, so you see it moving. And what it'll be is a big old wedge of white, really condensed felt, and it will be too big. So it's going and moving upwards and then blocking. And so I'll shave 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch sometimes off of that. And a lot of times what you have to do is like pull it off, cut it down, and then glue it back on. Is that what you found, Victor?
I just get a fresh razor blade or blazer raid, as my mentor says, and just kind of slice it while it's in there. It's a little tricky though, so if you could take it out, I'd probably do that. I've never done that though.
Yeah. So yeah, that happens all the time. And then when you show the customer that and they play it, they're like, oh my gosh, my foot can go where it needs to go.
Yeah. I'm still trying to figure out why it does that though.
That's the upstop felt or upstop leather that we're speaking of.
Yeah.
No, it's basically maybe it is. It's
Effectively,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Usually, like with
You
Asian
could call it
pianos
that.
now, there's something that's adjustable, either like some sort of capstan at the top that will adjust the range of movement. But yeah, Steinway, they use felt. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, and also I guess like older American be like Kimballs.
Yeah.
I see them on those all the time.
This place is a mess right now.
Word of caution when you're cutting things. It's an obvious thing, but it can happen to anyone. But it was 2 weeks ago. I was doing the same thing. Actually, I was cutting a piece of felt off of the Trapwork, like similar to that. And I was using a chisel, and I was slipped and rammed into my finger and started bleeding everywhere instantly. And it's like, I was like, grab my cloth and then like ran out to the car. So
I'm sorry.
Just be careful.
It didn't go too deep, did it, Jacob?
I don't think so.
That's good.
Just put a little bit
I've
of
been
extra
using
glue on it.
a lot lately. 10 millimeter thick nitrile gloves. Not for tuning. When I'm tuning, it's just my bare hands. But for anything else, like whenever it's time to adjust the pedals or do a little bit of interior dusting, then I'll just put those gloves on, and it's saved from a lot of nicks and scrapes.
Cleaning especially.
I do,
Use
Yeah.
use it for cleaning. Oh my gosh, the amount of mice crap and stuff that you have to just put some gloves on. Yeah. But yeah,
And then
thick
same thing with
Yeah.
strings.
I was just-
that's gonna
The
help
string
you.
slightly poked me, but it didn't go through the glove, so I was fine.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah, I do that too, Cobra. That's a great idea. I carry like a pair of reusable ones, and they're like kind of rubbery. But yeah, if I'm not tuning, I'm wearing them. Even if I'm just taking the piano apart, because like what Jacob's saying, I mean, I'm sure there's been a whole bunch of rats running around all over what I'm touching, so I don't want to touch that.
Or fingerprints on a polyester finish.
Yeah. By the way, Cobran, you got like this amazing 5-star review, which was beautiful in and of itself, but they ended it with they said your name wrong and they called you Cobra, which I'm like, that's awesome. It was Cobra.
Oh yeah, was that the recent one?
Yeah, it was Cobra with a K. I was like, that's cool. Like
Cobra Kai.
Cobra.
It's a new spy nickname.
Yes.
So that guy actually, that customer actually played a little bit of a boogie woogie, and I'm like, you know what? These hammers don't need to be replaced, because if these hammers are replaced, it's no longer going to sound boogie woogie. So, and there was I don't know 3 millimeters, 4 millimeters of grooves in the hammers, and the whole front of them were just flat. I'm like, well, this is the perfect sound.
Yeah, he loved Cobra, so you made him happy.
Cobra, no mercy.
All right, you guys want to see what we've been working on? We'll end this recording. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.